Hi, you're listening to It Happened to Me, a rare disease and medical challenges podcast. The mission of our podcast is to support you, our listeners, and to create community as you confront the toughest challenges in life. All of us will experience health hardships. The real question is how we adapt. That's the focus of It Happened to Me, which wants to help you overcome limitations and live a full and satisfying life. Drawing on their own health challenges, co-hosts Cathy, Gildenhorn, and Beth Glassman interview guests who share stories and research to help you succeed in the face of difficult health obstacles. It happened to me. I'm not alone, and neither are you.
Joining us today on It Happened to Me is Jessica Chalk. After spending 6 years trying to conceive and enduring complex fertility treatments and paying more than $100,000 out of pocket, Jessica was left carrying the emotional weight of infertility and the overwhelming burden of navigating a system that leaves patients trying to figure it out for themselves.
Jessica brings a powerful perspective shaped by lived experience. In this conversation, we focus mostly on her story, what those years were really like, and how infertility affected her emotionally and practically, and what she wants others to know who may be quietly walking a similar path.
So, Jessica, welcome. Let's start at the beginning of your fertility journey. What did that first chapter look like?
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here and telling my story and hopefully help someone else out there listening. So my journey, everything for me started back in 2015 timeframe. I was together with my boyfriend at the time, now husband, and there's just a part of me just given, I don't know, like I had a period of years during my high school phase that I didn't have my period at all. And I just, for whatever reason, had top of mind, and I was 25, 26 years old, that like something's just not right. Like I feel like I need to get something checked. I just had this inkling that I might have issues with my fertility, which I cannot put a finger on particularly why that is, like something someone said or something I read. I don't know. So that was really the start of my informal fertility journey. I had booked an appointment at the family doctor, didn't really know what I was going to say or do going in, but I had kind of just said, I just feel like something's wrong or not quite right. Didn't really give much more information. It was kind of a quick appointment and ended up getting blood tests that confirmed I had PCOS. And so that for me was like, go home and Google. And of course, I Google PCOS and fertility, and it's like, you're done for. Like basically, like you're probably not going to have kids was effectively what I found.
Well, can you just tell us what those initials stand for?
Yes, absolutely. PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome. So a combination of hormonal imbalance, and I have a ton of follicles in my ovaries that all kind of grow at the same time, which looks like pearls on ultrasounds, which is the polycystic, as I understand it, kind of component. So there's a number of factors at play there, but there's a number of different reasons why someone might have PCOS, but it is a super common and becoming more common diagnoses in women's health.
Wow. Jessica, anyone in your family have this condition?
Not that I know of. I started to kind of dig around because, as we tell my story, I'll go into fast forward of endo, but I'll go into the detail on that. I started to kind of dig, like, where is all this coming from? Because I also was diagnosed with psoriasis. And so I have an autoimmune condition. And I was like, I feel like I'm the only one in the family that is dealing with these recurring things. But as I actually talked to my mom and I learned from my grandmother, there were signs of, my mom had a couple miscarriages. There was things that I just didn't know about my family history that I didn't even know to ask. But no, it was no one else in the family to this day, as far as I know, has PCOS specifically.
Now, is that condition genetic? I may have missed that you mentioned that.
I don't think so. I'm not a doctor, but as far as I know, it is not a genetic condition. It's more, I want to say like hormone, depends on the reason, but hormonal. Insulin is also a really big factor in PCOS, and your yeah, so there's an element of that too, but not a doctor on that capacity. So I
Right.
I don't 100% know all the detail behind all the
Yes.
different, but yeah.
Gotcha.
So, Jessica, so you got this diagnosis, and now suddenly you're in a more complicated situation. How did that affect you?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing for me at that time, and like timing in 2015, social media wasn't what it is today where you can get so much information, and we didn't have AI, and it was really Dr. Google at play for me. And
Yeah.
I had kind of booked another appointment with a doctor to go back and say, all right, I have PCOS. I'm very concerned about my fertility. Like, can we start to like dig into like what my fertility is like? And the first question kind of out of the doctor's mouth, and I remember this so vividly because it changed the course of how I was talking to the doctor,
Mm,
was, "Well, are you trying to conceive?" And
mm.
I was like, "No, I'm just concerned
You
about it. Yeah, I'm concerned that in the future it's going to be a problem." And I said to her, and I hope the TMI is not too much of an issue, too dumb problem here. But I was like, also, we're not really being careful at home, and I've not gotten pregnant. So, like, in my head, I was like, okay, maybe there is an issue.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and I want to just asterisk that component because as I went on my journey, one of the things that I think is so critical to communicate with your doctors and push on is like, it's not just the time you're trying to conceive. If someone says, "Oh, how long have you been trying to conceive and how long hasn't it worked?" Well, if you're not necessarily careful at home and you're not using protection and whatever, there's an element of you're not trying to conceive, but it is a clue into like what might be
Yes.
going on with you.
True.
Yeah, so I just like from the doctor asking me that kind of said like, listen, come back when you're actually trying to conceive and then we can have a conversation. So again, I went home and Googled and I was like, okay, nope, this is not okay. So I ended up actually going to a naturopath who
Huh.
specialized in fertility. And she was amazing. She was digging into a whole bunch of stuff with me, but I found myself in a phase that fast forward to my fertility treatment years was like a recurring theme of urgency to figure out, urgency to like know what the situation is, and that drove a lot of how I went through my health journey in general. But the naturopath dug into, all right, what is your insulin reactivity? Let's look at your stress, your kind of stress and what that impacts. Let's look at your hormone at different times of the cycle. Let's look at your AMH, which is your egg count, and see if that's okay. So we kind of did a baseline there. And then from
Hmm.
there, she kind of said to me, listen, like you're definitely a stressed, like your normal is like high stress levels, and you've got some insulin resistance that we want to look at. And like, let's go and put you on kind of a natural protocol to kind of help you go through it. So
Yeah.
that made me feel good for a couple years as like I 2 years of kind of working with her directly and trying to figure out what I could do from a more natural perspective. And honestly, because I was largely being dismissed by my family doctor because I wasn't in the trying to conceive phase. So it wasn't like
Mm.
a priority to go dig into this stuff. Now, looking back, I regret not pushing on that, but it
Mm.
did shape how I talked to the doctor because when I finally went back to the doctor and said, "Okay, I'm now like getting very close to trying to conceive. I'd really like to go through this is what I've done in the last like year and a half, 2 years. This is what I found out." She said to me, "Okay, we're going to send you to an OB who's going to work with you. You have to go to them first to get a referral to a fertility clinic." Because in my head at the time, I was convinced I'm going to need a fertility clinic. So, like, get me on the wait list now. At the time, the wait list
Mm.
was like 8 months.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, I was really like trying to proactively go about as much as I could all of this stuff.
Hmm.
And I went to the OB, and the first thing the OB said to me, and I still kick myself to this day, he was like, "Well, are you trying to conceive actively right now? Like, is that something that you're trying to do?" And I was like,
Uh-huh.
"No, I'm just like thinking, like, we're getting closer to that phase. And I'm
And you're
just thinking
thinking,
about, yeah. And I know I've got issues, and Dr. Google says basically I'm going to need help. So, like, can I not just start this process now?"
Yes. Yes.
And he said to me, listen, having PCOS gives you a very higher likely chance of getting ovarian cancer. I
oh,
want to put you on
whoa.
an which I didn't know because, and
Right.
I've since learned is it's the high estrogen hormones that contribute to increasing your likelihood of certain types of reproductive cancers. But what he ended up saying to me, which is so wild to think about now, is like, until you're actually ready to like start to like, you want to have a baby like next month kind of thing, I'm going to put you on an IUD to protect your uterus from potentially getting cancer down the road, if I can layman terms, whatever I remember him saying. And I remember I just didn't push back. I don't know why.
Right.
And I know this is such a common conversation that people have
Yeah.
said, but I just didn't push back. I was like, okay. I'm like, I don't know why. It's like, I just didn't like understand it. So then I had said to him, okay, but help me understand the IUD, because the last time I was on birth control, I had to stop, which is why I haven't been on anything for a while, because it was like severely impacting my mood and it was making me feel worse and depressed. So I had to stop it. So he put me on a hormonal free IUD, which he then said to me, like, listen, go get the prescription. I can do it today basically for you. And it was so painful because I had no pain,
Poor kid.
medications, no whatever, right? No, it's, you know what? These are such common conversations with
Yeah.
people that are the pain tolerance that we have to deal with in a lot of these different treatments is insanity. It's insane. So fast forward, finally, I went back 6 months later. I said, this IUD is not working for me. Something's wrong. I still get my period. I thought you didn't have to, or you didn't get it anymore. Like looking at the one perk of having an IUD and is like, okay, then at least I don't have to deal with my monthly cycle. And I said, please take it out. So he took it out, and about, I want to say 4 months later, I got into a fertility clinic appointment.
Can we back up for a minute?
Yeah.
Your story is something that, I know that our listening audience is going to be very interested in, because all of us have the experience of going to doctors and really not being heard or not being seen or not being supported. And how old were you when you were going through this? You're a young woman.
I was
Yeah.
26 at the
Yeah,
time.
just a baby. You're just a little young woman. And sometimes I think, and listening to this, that having someone with you is really helpful, because the demand that was placed on you to have to listen, take in this information, respond, ask questions, and really maybe be aggressive with the doctor is a tall order. And
Yep.
I think that my heart is just breaking for you, listening to you and thinking about you sitting in the office all by yourself, trying to understand something that is pretty new and a little bit frightening. And I'm sorry that you went through that. I'm really so sorry. And I would just say to everybody listening, take your partner, take your friend, take your sister, take someone with you that, if you think that this might be a difficult appointment. Any good doctor is not going to resent that you have someone with you. If they resent it, then they're the wrong person. Have some support with you. And I'm so sorry, Jessica, that happened to you. And I wanted to just stop and just say that was really a tough order for you. And my heart goes out to you.
I
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Honestly, something else if I look back on 26-year-old Jess, and for anyone listening as well, is like reminding yourself in those moments with the doctor that you are the customer. Like they're
Yes,
there to
right.
help you. And I
yes,
always feel, and to this day, sometimes I feel it too, even though I tell myself this, even though I've learned so much in my healthcare
yep,
journey, that you have a right to ask for what you want out of your journey, your health. This is
yes,
your body. It's your choice what
yes,
happens. You have the most to lose or the most to gain. You care the
yes,
most. Like it's your boundaries that are the most important in what you're looking for. And not to say I'm anti-doctor. They only have so much time and they need you
right,
to lean in. They actually,
yes.
they need you to lean in too.
Right.
But
Yeah.
in listening, you were such a young woman at the
Yeah.
time. But, for all of us, sometimes that's difficult to ask those
Mm.
probing questions. And
Yeah.
sometimes if you have that support, you can look to the other person, and that person maybe can
I
be
love
your
that.
advocate to help you. But I
Yeah.
just, my heart broke, because that was such an important appointment.
Yeah.
So anyway, I
Yeah.
interrupted your story about getting to the
No.
fertility, and I apologize. I just wanted to tell you how much I empathize with you.
Thank you, Beth.
Infertility can be such an isolating experience. What did those 6 years feel like for you on a day-to-day level?
It's such a good question. And I was just reflecting on this actually yesterday because I'm a couple years having chosen to walk away from treatments without a baby. The best way I can describe it in phases was phase one was you get to the fertility clinic. And I honestly just felt like this is the magic solution. Like basically the first round of whatever happens is going to work and this is going to be great. And then as cycles kept failing and or something else came up or it was canceled or some issue happened, it was like this dark cloud was building over my head and my husband's head. And it was like going with us everywhere. Like it was just all encompassing. And fast forward into my fertility journey a couple years. And I honestly would say like, I definitely had some form of, at the time I didn't get diagnosed, but depression.
I'm sure.
It's truly all consuming.
Yeah.
Like I made it my whole personality going through fertility. And when I say that, it was like so many things were triggering, like friends' baby showers, just people talking about wanting to have a kid. Like I started to almost like isolate myself from social settings. And then the other thing is I became very much obsessive. And when I say that, I don't mean a negative connotation because this is out of pocket, like private pay. You have a lot to lose, and this is like your life and your wants. So choosing how much you want to lean into this or not lean into it is totally a personal choice. But when I say that, I meant like I love wine. I love cheese. I love having like going out for dinners. I eliminated anything and everything that someone said something was bad for me and impacting my fertility. I was like, no wine, no dairy, no gluten. At one point, I thought I had a histamine issue and I literally stopped eating anything that had high histamine levels. And then I read something that said that maybe I have an issue with red or orange colored food. So then I stopped eating that stuff. Like it just truly became,
consuming.
all consuming, 100%.
To ask, just because I went through a different but similar journey. I went through a long infertility journey and then explored other options and formed my family by the miracle of adoption, which was the right answer for me. But I had to go through a grieving process too, so that I could move to a different option. Did you ever consider anything like that?
Yes. So, and we haven't closed that door yet, just to be completely honest here. We walked away from the treatment aspect of it just because I could not do it anymore. And because like, number one, our relationship was impacted and I had lost so much of myself and I now like didn't know my own identity. My husband even said to me, like, you've got to take care of yourself right now. Like figure out like whatever we need to do to like get you back to being you. And so we have not opened that door again yet to have further discussion, but it is on my thought process. Like, just looking at all the different non-traditional like fertility routes to get to having that family. Right now, I am a dog mom.
Absolutely. Here.
Yeah.
I love being a dog mom. But I've got to say, it's never right or a wrong time to consider that. And so take your time. And it's just when you're ready to even think about it. And it may be not at all. It may be in a year. It may be in 5 years. You'll decide what's right for you. And I just wish you such good luck on the process.
Thank you, Cathy. And I think important note, I just wanted to like highlight here the financial aspect of everything too. Cause I feel lucky that I was able to spend over $100,000. Like we took
I was going to ask you about this, about just the financial strain of what you were doing. No one, that is not something that goes without some kind of strain and then the emotional strain with it. So two of you are young. It's a lot of money for anyone.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
$100,000.
so many people, I'm sure someone listening to this, like there's so many people who can't even afford to even start fertility treatment process because it's so expensive. And employers are getting better at covering it. In Canada, Ontario, government, and BC and a couple others have one IVF funding round. But the misconception on that is that's amazing, but you still have to pay for the medications. Like my meds for my IVF cycle were $10,000 minimum. Like not everyone even has the money to try to start this. And so, for us too on this is, recovering financially from the journey we went on. But then it's even when we look at, and we're looking at, do we look at donor egg? Do we look at surrogacy? Do we look at adoption? Like all of these things are still such a miracle to go through and so lucky to be able to go through, but it's so expensive. So yeah, so I think like a focus in on preventative care, A, and B, on how do we help how do we put structures financially to make fertility treatments or adoption or surrogacy or whatever else safer, more affordable, all that other stuff, I think is really, really important. I know so many people that just haven't had a chance to even go down that road or wouldn't unless they had the government funding.
While you're going through this process, can you describe what it was like? Did you feel supported? Did you feel, or were you really suffering, the two of you?
I'd say the latter was the overwhelming feeling. My mom, my sister, my dad, my best friend were amazing in supporting me emotionally. And my sister in particular spent a lot of time trying to understand it more and trying to meet me in the moment and help me feel seen and all of that stuff. She used to drive down to New York City with me to get treatments and drop me off and come back if my husband couldn't because he had to work. So that was like, there's been so much love around me. But I think in general, especially when I started fertility treatments, it's such a taboo topic, or it's starting to not become. And I love that. But it was such a taboo topic. And so the support layers on the outside of the clinic side of things, I think the education and awareness of people that someone might be going through something, that Mother's Day might be hard, that there's a lot of emotion behind this is really important. And acknowledging the level of anxiety and depression that comes with fertility, because it often feels like a quiet grief or an unseen health challenge. And, there's so many studies out there that say it's so close, like the level of anxiety and depression are so close to getting a cancer diagnosis or I think HIV, like there was a list of big diagnoses that are at play. And I felt that, like I 100% felt that on my end. And to this date, I'm still healing. So there's that. And then in clinic, in terms of support, the one thing I'd say that I felt and I learned on my journey was the clinic, like you're spending so much money at the clinic and they're so busy. Like there is not enough doctors and in treatment centers for the number of patients that need support out there. And so you've got a very small window with your doctor to have a conversation, to make a big financial decision, but also to make a big health decision on what you want to do and the path you want to be on. And 30% of us are diagnosed with unexplained infertility, which effectively means they can't figure out what's going on. And despite having PCOS, because they thought the only problem with me was anovulation, helping me ovulate, but when that didn't work, I bumped into the category as unexplained infertility. And it was in that moment that I felt the role I had to play as the patient, the person that the things were happening to, and my partner too, but I was doing most of the work. Like we're the ones doing most of the work, taking most of the brunt of it, was, okay, help. I need to understand what's actually going on with me. And I could not get any single doctor in clinic or whatever to really dig into what was happening with me. So again, I started to look to my naturopath and try to dig more into it. So eventually, 5 years into my fertility journey, I got diagnosed with endometriosis, which I had flagged and I had thought I had in almost year one. I can't remember the exact year, but I feel like it was early on year one. And the reason I flagged it was because I was like, listen, I just Googled the symptoms of endometriosis. And the reason I came up on that was because I basically looked at what are all the reasons why you could not be getting pregnant. And one of them was endometriosis. And I said, I have really painful periods. I have sometimes I have painful sex. I have so many things that are so close to what endometriosis sounds like. And I think I had a cyst on my ovaries that burst one time, and I gave the
Oh,
list
no.
to the doctor, and the doctor said, no, we did a blood test to like do the preliminary test for if you have endo, and you don't have endo. And that was year one-ish. And finally, in year 5, after so much failure, I had actually gotten my medical records from my family doctor, my OB that I had before, and the naturopath. And I literally opened them all up. And then I started to like chart all these things in an Excel spreadsheet to like just, again, it was all consuming of me, but I was like, what's happening here? And I realized on an ultrasound that I had an endometrioma back in like 2013 that was just not looked at. So I emailed the clinic and I said, I had an endometrioma and I happened to get a second opinion. And Dr. Amy Egg Whisperer out of San Francisco, in a course I took of her, she said to me, if you've got an endometrioma, you have endometriosis. Like you can't not have like you have endometriosis. So I emailed the clinic and I said, I have endometriosis. Here's an ultrasound with an endometrioma. I want a laparoscopy, and I want a laparoscopy like ASAP. It's that journey around like starting to realize to advocate for yourself. And finally I got that laparoscopy, but it did in fact have endometriosis in a couple places, and that was excised. But that for me, that journey, just that diagnosis came a little bit late in my capacity to keep going. And so that was more of the end of the journey. Like I just couldn't, like financially, emotionally, relationship wise, like even just socially, I just couldn't keep going.
handle.
And so I could not. No. So you kind of circling back to your question on support, huge part of, I think, any sort of complex care journey, but my fertility journey was realizing how much I had to like lean in and be the role I needed to
Be
be.
your advocate.
Right.
Yes, you were your advocate. I tell you something, Jessica, you are so articulate in really explaining how you were feeling as you're going through this process. And it's heart-wrenching to listen to. I am so sorry that this was such a difficult journey. And I guess that that's something that we all hear, that many of our listeners have such difficult healthcare journeys. And we wish that the healthcare system was really more sensitive to that.
And more responsive.
And yes,
to
that you describe as this a clinic that is so busy, and here you're spending all this money and this emotional capital, and you're just one of many people. And it's heartbreaking to listen to, Jessica. I'm so sorry.
But Jessica, I want to go back to this identity that you mentioned, identity question that your husband had mentioned, that you need to find yourself. And how did this experience affect that? And then how were you able to recapture your sense of self or the way you view your body? How did all that fit together?
It's such a good question. It's still taking me, like I'm not fully there yet, but one of the biggest things I can like try to describe the feeling of when my husband and I decided enough's enough, like we're choosing to stop fertility treatments, was almost like the sun came out again.
What?
Yeah.
Oh.
And I don't like, it was this weird, like I described that not as like life's good again, but that this like that cloud I described earlier over my head of like dictating my mornings, like I felt like I was climbing Everest every freaking day that I had something going on. Like I didn't have to do any of that anymore. I'm choosing to just not have this full-time patient job anymore, and I can just be Jess. And so that for me was like a period of time where I was like, I'm going to go drink wine. I'm going to go eat all the cheese. I'm ordering the pizza. I am doing let's book a vacation. Like we went to Porto. And we just had, all of the things that I was depriving myself of for so long then kind of slowly crept in this like, okay, but who am I now? I felt like I wanted to be a mom so bad. And now I was kind of saying to myself, well, you're never going to be a mom now. Because like at the time I had closed the journey completely. Like, we're walking away. I can't do this anymore without looking at the other options that we were talking about. But it was like, okay, who are you now? Like, what's your purpose? And I think part of that's driven by these societal norms that are around us. You get like celebrate getting married, celebrate having babies, celebrate all these different things. And that I wouldn't get to experience that. And I was letting down my husband. I was letting down me. I was letting down our parents who want grandchildren and all of these other people. And I was more actually focused in that moment on who around me I was letting down more than myself. And I
Oh,
did
I'm
realize that at the
sorry.
time. It honestly was very much a me grieving myself and probably in
Mhm.
therapy working through some form of people pleaser thing that I've got going on that I'm working through in therapy, right? Like it's
Mhm.
not that our families made us feel this way at all, or
No,
ever put
I'm
pressure on us. It was
no.
right.
me.
While you're going through all of this, I just have to ask, were you working?
Yeah, so I was actually running my own company, and
Oh, do you have the bandwidth?
I
This is,
didn't.
I,
I
I
did
can't
like
imagine.
yeah, like I look back on that and I was surviving. Like that's the best way
Mhm.
to put it. Like I had employees that I really wanted to make, like that was my focus on keep the business going, keep people getting paid, but growing the business and hitting the metrics I wanted to hit and continually going at the pace I was going before all of this, it wasn't happening. And I didn't fully realize it as I was going through it because I really was in survival mode in the best
Right.
Mhm.
way to describe it. But as I look back after, I wasn't balancing anything. I was in like, I'm trying to get through the day. Every day felt like genuinely, every day felt like you're climbing Everest. And then it happens every day that you're in treatment cycles and all these other things. I had a little bit though flexibility because I was my own boss. So I could leave to go to the appointment last minute at 9 a.m. or make the 2 p.m. treatment that needed to be there or run to the pharmacy last minute. Because fertility treatments, as you know, Cathy, are like it's not like you get a heads up 3 weeks before that you've got to be in an appointment. It's every day or every other day or every X number of days. And you're only really knowing when you have to go back less than 12 hours, sometimes 24,
Mm.
definitely less than 24 hours before. So I feel for people that didn't have the level of flexibility I had on my journey, because that was very, very difficult. But if I circle back to the identity, I actually reached out because I was running my business at the time to one of my mentors. And when I walked away from my fertility journey, there was a part of me, and probably just because of this kind of entrepreneurial like mindset that I had at the time, be like, it shouldn't be this effing hard to
Right.
advocate for yourself. And why is it that we're supposed to do this really important job of being a patient and we have like no help to be able to do that? Like we talked about earlier, like have someone show up to help you listen and take in what someone's saying, all these things that you're trying to do, coordinate between different healthcare providers and try to get everyone rowing in the same direction and make sure nothing's missed and dig into something and ask the right questions and explain the gut feelings in your body you have. Like it's exhausting. So I had actually reached out to one of my mentors and I said to her, I was like, I'm having a life crisis. My business at the
Mm.
time just was no longer giving me the passion it was. And I said to her, like, I want to just do something that will help people that are coming down the path that I was going down
Mm.
after me. And I really want to help figure out how to help them do the job of the patient better, more effectively without feeling like it's a full-time job on top of everything else we got going on in life. And she just said to me, Jess, go for it. Like, you need this, like enjoy yourself a little bit, take a hot second to, go get some therapy, like go travel, like go live a bit of your life again. And then when you're ready to go do it, go do it. I actually sold my previous company and then just went all in on helping fertility and, share stories of
Mm.
helping fertility patients through my story. But that for me has been a healing journey. Like outside of what my story, for me personally, it is starting to bring back a sense of purpose. Even talking to people in this community and sharing stories with others has been a weirdly healing journey. Like I have zero emotional reserve left. I'm surprised I
Right.
haven't
Mhm.
cried yet. The stories of people is insane, but I feel like I found my people. I feel like I found a sense of purpose again. And if it's not being a mom, it's helping others come after me. And I just like that's been helpful for me in figuring
That's
out my own
beautiful.
identity.
I've got to ask, you made me think as you're going through all this and what you've learned and what you're finding is helping you stay afloat. Is there something for our audience with not just infertility, but what Beth was hitting at, medical challenges in general, that the lessons you've learned can really be as useful to anyone going through a challenge, not just infertility as a challenge?
The reality of infertility is that, like, I was speaking at a conference in Vancouver last November, and someone said something that stayed with me. They said fertility is often the first time that we realize as women that we have some form of other issue. And because your fertility is so linked to every other aspect of you, it's not just your ovaries, your uterus. It's like your hormone level, it is your stress levels, it is like your gut. Like there's so much to do with yourself. And I think like the aspect of helping people earlier and preventative care and really digging into whole body health, I think is so important. And I do think there's a gap, at least in the Canadian system. And I have experienced this in the US a little bit, but I'd love your feedback on it. In Canada, we've got the family doctor who then refers to the OB if needed. But then basically there's a no woman's land in between the family doctor and the fertility clinic to help you understand what's going on with your body in general. And so I love seeing all the different tools and support and companies popping up in women's health, but tracking your information, understanding, like seeing your medical records, like digging into it, advocating for yourself and turning to people to help you get through that and not take no for an answer or not take your fine or all of that, I think is just so critical to managing what often is chronic conditions that we're dealing with long term that are taking forever to get to actual diagnosis.
There's also this human element, and I'm just wondering, again, thinking about our listeners as a whole, was there something that was said to you? Were there misconceptions or assumptions that just were just totally wrong? And I wondered if there was something that could have changed, that would have been just more beneficial to your journey.
Pregnancy loss feels so like such a common happening in society. And so for me, one of like the key kind of forks in the road that I think had a huge shape on how long and how fast and how I could do my journey was we finally had gotten pregnant, got to an ultrasound 8 weeks in, 9 weeks in, and then realized we lost our pregnancy. And that was from one of our IVF rounds. I had two different doctors telling me two different things on what the right way is to have your loss, like to have your miscarriage. I had no idea I had no idea to ask questions to like understand what the process was. So what happened was one said, take a pill. The other said, don't take the pill, do the D&C, because if you take the pill, you might have retained, might not be full, and then you're going to get infection, and then that's a huge issue. And then the other one was like, the D&C is going to ruin your lining. It has a high risk of doing that. Don't do that. Go over here and do it this way.
That's terrible.
It was just like, how do you sit there and choose? And it was like 2 days before Christmas, which was like such terrible timing.
Of course. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to go with take the pills first because I don't really want to figure out how to go in for surgery in the holidays and whatever. And they're saying that there might be a bigger risk this way. So I did the pills, and long and the short of it is I thought I had passed everything. It was like a week later around New Year's Day that my dad had called and said, hey, I'm going to Florida to our condo. Do you want to come down and just like get away for a week or so? And I was like, yeah, that actually sounds really great. Peter's my husband. Peter, are you okay with that? And he's like, yes, go. So I kid you not, on the drive down to Florida, I literally started to like hemorrhage. I had like in my dad's car, in his car on the way, I was like, what is happening? So I'm in a basically truck stop bathroom passing, like, I apologize for the TMI, just like, it was insane. It was crazy. I had to wrap myself in all of my clothes just to like, it was, what are we going to do? So he's like, do you want to turn back? Do you want to get down? We're like halfway in between. I was like, let's just go down. And we're like, do we need to go to a hospital? And I said, I don't think yet, because they told me, like, they didn't tell me much about like this. I think it's fine. Like, I feel fine. It's probably fine. So for me, it happened that was like that 6-hour period was like all it was for the while. And then we got to Florida, had a great time, came back to Canada via flight. And the day after I came back to Canada, and thank freaking God, because I don't have US health insurance, I hemorrhaged again, and it ended up passing out in my bathroom. My husband had to take me to the emergency room. I had an emergency D&C, but like the pain was unbelievable, and I just couldn't take it. And so the long and the short of it is that happening, that journey actually took my ability to carry away. Like my lining no longer grows the way it should. It's thin, all of this other stuff. And if I look back on what would have changed course, it was like, like suggesting at the time, I don't understand what I should do here. Can we walk through the pros and cons? Help me understand, like asking about the process. There was so much there that I look back on that. And I think it rounds back to advocacy of like pulling for information. I think AI has a lot to do with helping us now, like as in like all the things you may want to know. The role of AI for patients and understanding, I think, is so huge. But at the time, I didn't have that. So that would be one thing that, like, a lesson learned for me, a fork in the road. What would have changed my journey was that particular that changed just everything about my ability.
I am so sorry. It's just in the midst of this journey that is so exhausting. And I have to say, I feel like a heaviness. I mean, I am listening to what you've gone through and I'm exhausted. I just, how do you keep going?
I've had a lot of therapy. Like, there is such an incredible role for therapy in this. And I really super advocate for anyone listening to find a therapist, and particularly a therapist that understands either complex health journeys or fertility. I was lucky enough to find someone that also was a child-free, not by choice person that had walked away. And so she has been like a godsend for me in terms of working through my own emotion. But I just didn't realize the layers and layers and layers that are there. So I'm working, things pop up and you work through it slowly. The other thing I've learned on this journey, and I don't think this just applies to fertility, but is communicating my needs to my circle of people and and setting boundaries that people understand why and not take it personally. That has helped me a lot. And then the other thing that I was just chatting actually about yesterday with a couple other people that have gone through their journeys was feeling seen by people around me. And I think, like, this, for anyone listening that maybe doesn't have a health journey or knows someone else that's going through it and they're going through it too, people that are going through health journeys or fertility journeys, like, portion of it is like, I just want to be seen. Like, I want to be seen. I want, like, my pain sometimes acknowledged. Like, just, you may not understand it and you don't have to try to understand it, but just like knowing, like, I see you, I'm sorry you're going through this, like that type of stuff, it has really helped me heal. And to be honest with you, my husband and I moved from Ontario to BC and to try to heal, start new, not be surrounded by all these expectations of baby gatherings and all these other things and outside pressures. And our relationship has healed incredibly since we've kind of moved away and worked on ourselves and been a little bit selfish in terms of, that's not a negative word, but chosen us and what we need to feel and happy and heal. So in general, for me, those have been my coping mechanisms, and helping other fertility patients has been as emotional as it has been healing too.
Well, what do you think people who have never experienced infertility most often misunderstand about it?
There's a couple things. One is just the level of grief in there. Like, a lot of people equate it to like, well, the comments around stop trying so hard, or it'll come, or maybe, I've heard someone so-and-so stopped doing treatments and went on vacation and got pregnant. Looking at infertility as a real diagnosis, equivalent to how we feel, something like, the gravity of a cancer journey, the gravity of another major thing, I think is really important. And as the side note of that, and kind of circling back to an earlier comment around societal norms, like, we're if we can, we're showing up to the baby showers, or buying gifts for different stuff. We're doing what we can do too, and celebrating that person for, a big career accomplishment. They did their first marathon, like stuff that makes people feel like they're, I don't know, like celebrated for their own accomplishments and not held back because they're not meeting the child accomplishments. I think is helpful for someone on a fertility journey, just in terms of how you can support someone. And the other thing is showing up, like texting, I'm thinking of you, knowing what not to say, being okay when they set boundaries and being okay when they don't know how to communicate that they're setting boundaries, like all these different things, we're just trying to survive in the moment. We react in certain ways because we're figuring stuff out, and to try to like not take it personally, I think is very, very, very critical too.
Jess, if
Wow.
you were going to speak to someone who's just in the beginning of a fertility journey, what would you say to them?
Take care of yourself, take care of your emotional state, take care of you in the moment, but advocate, lean in, like dig into the things that you want to dig into, find support around you. I think like this is such a roller coaster of a journey, and I hope the best for everyone. And I hope the first treatment is a success. And I hope everything goes well, but don't be afraid. Remember, you have the most to lose in this moment. You are the customer. You are the most valued person in the room in terms of your contributions and your knowledge of your own health. And don't let anyone undermine that, and just push through to get the answers that you want to feel good. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate this. Such a great conversation.
You've really been wonderful, Jess. And I think that some of the solutions that you found are really noteworthy, that stopping something that's not working, really taking stock in yourself, getting yourself physically well, getting yourself mentally well, and actually you even moved. So you put yourself in a new place. And I think all these steps that you've taken probably have led you to this place today, and they're
I love
very instructive. And I think that the fact that you and your husband have come together, where sometimes stresses in a marriage can split you apart, I think you have done so many positive things. And
absolutely.
you are very,
Absolutely.
very young, and I'm sure your husband is as well. And the two
But
of you have grown together. And I think that is such
Beth,
a positive message.
yes. And Beth, one thing that I do
Yeah.
think that Jessica's journey can help our audience see is how important putting yourself first was
Yes.
in this,
Yes.
and how important it
Absolutely.
was to put finding yourself and what your needs are first. And really never losing sight of who you are once you could recapture that feeling. I'm just very impressed with how you're able
I
to, in every level, put yourself first in your relationship with your husband.
And
Thank you
Jessica, I
both.
have to say you are a terrific advocate. You really articulate difficult emotions in a way that is totally understandable to the listener, so that we can really feel what you feel. And that is
Thank you.
so important. Your
Told
advocacy work is really, that seems as though that has become your life's work.
It has. Yeah. Look, I told you I have zero emotional reserve. I appreciate that. Like, it has not been an easy journey, and just to be again seen and have this feedback, it means a lot. So thank you. Thank you very much for saying that. I really, really appreciate it.
Jessica, I
And
want to thank you so much for sharing your story today. You've really been so poised as you've expressed your vulnerability and the trauma that really you've been through. And it's been a remarkable episode. And I want to thank you very much for being here on It Happened
I
to Me.
thank you for
absolutely.
all you guys.
And Jessica, I want to be sure and say, I see you, I hear you, and I feel for you.
I love that,
And I'm
Cathy. Thank you
sorry.
so much. I really love, and I have to say, I love all that you guys are doing with this podcast and getting out there and talking about it, because I just talking about these challenges, it is so important. So thank you for having me on and having the ability to tell my story. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of It Happened to Me. We encourage you to learn more at ithappenedtomepod.com. Please use the contact form on our website to submit your guest suggestions, comments, questions, ideas, and feedback for the show. You can also email us directly at ithappenedtomepod@gmail.com. We would really appreciate it if you can leave us a 5-star rating and review on your podcast app like Apple or Spotify. This helps others in the rare disease and medical challenge community find us. It Happened to Me is created and hosted by Cathy Gildenhorn and Beth Glassman. I'm Keir Deneen from DNA Today, and I serve as our executive producer and marketing lead. Amanda Andrioli is our associate producer. Ashlyn Anokian is our graphic designer. And remember, it happened to me. I'm not alone, and neither are you.